Well, hello, 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 and welcome to the Sprinklr Coffee Club. Welcome back. I'm Marshall Kirkpatrick, your host here at the Sprinklr Coffee Club. Thanks so much for joining us today. Hope you've got a tasty cup of coffee in front of you. I'm sure excited about mine. We've got a very special guest today. We have the one, the only Grad Conn, Sprinklr Customer Experience and Marketing Officer. Grad, thanks so much for joining us today.
Thanks, Marshall. I'm super excited to be here today.
I always
Coming to
enjoy
you
it.
straight from Rebel Base on Yavin 5. Yeah,
Fantastic.
I figured it was the best,
Circumstances.
safest place to be with all this coronavirus stuff. I thought, I'm getting off this planet.
That's fantastic, and I don't see anyone else there. So yeah, social distancing on the micro, on the macro. Fantastic. Well, Grant, I hope that you've got good phone reception there, because I know that you are liable to be in contact with the home planet for any number of different things, both professional and personal. And there's a bit of an intersection between those two that we want to talk about today on Coffee Club. Something that I know a lot of our viewers have on their minds for both professional and personal reasons as well, and that is our ability to get things done, and in particular to work with the companies that we're seeking to do business with, even while we stay here on our homes or leave to another planet, as the case may be. While the almost every industry that we're talking to is facing just a big crush of increased demand for customer support. That's something that we have on our minds a lot, both personally and professionally. And I wonder if you might cue things up a little bit from your perspective of why are we talking about customer support, customer care? Why is it on our minds so prominently these days?
Well, Marshall, it's actually quite interesting. The numbers are startling. At Sprinklr, we've seen a 40% increase in caseload since the middle of March on our care product. So clearly there's a massive double-digit expansion in care usage going on out there. And I think that's surprising. Everyone's at home. People are moving to online. They're ordering their food online. They're ordering clothes if they're wearing them online. They're games online. I think there's a big people are puzzled, right? So, but often when you order things online, you gotta return them, try them on, see if they fit. There's a back and forth that occurs, and so the need for care and the need for making sure the customers have got a great experience has gone up. And the thing that we sort of ignored a little bit, because the news cycle sort of drives excitement and focus, and you'd almost think Amazon is selling everything. But in fact, online retailing is still pre-coronavirus pandemic was only about 5% of the economy. So there's still a ton of room for it to grow. And so we're going to see a massive expansion in that. And as that happens, people are going to be turning to digital care support channels to get help.
And that is easier said than done to get help. The networks are jammed. The call centers are jammed. How is our audio right now, Grad? Here, I'm hearing a lot of feedback. Are you?
No.
Oh, that's fantastic. Good. Well, I know I certainly have when reaching out to organizations that I am seeking to do business with and get support from, and it's been pretty frustrating. We're thinking about this from a professional level, but we don't want to center our own professional considerations because, well, that's doesn't feel very good, and it's not the most effective way to do it either. And we're not just professionals; we're also people who are out trying to utilize those same support systems. I wonder, could you, based on perhaps both your professional perspective and your personal perspective, talk a little bit about what customers are experiencing right now, emotionally, experientially, here in this time?
Yeah, and I think I'm gonna sort of try to stop saying in this time. It's pretty clear that we've had permanent changes So I think it's just, where we are today. There's a great quote from Satya Nadella at Microsoft. He said that we've seen 2 years of digital transformation occur in 2 months. So there's been a great movement, and Microsoft's doing amazing right now. They've just done an incredible job as a company. So let me talk personally first, because I myself have been purchasing more stuff online, and I've had some kind of weird experiences. There's one retailer, to be unnamed, who I ordered online and had a pretty good experience. Someone did a nice job with the catalog. Someone did a nice job with the site. Ordering was not spectacular, but fine. And put my order in and thought, great. Then I got an email from them. And the email said, it's the first time I purchased from them. And it wasn't a massive purchase, but it was, a couple $100, right? So it was the first time I purchased, and they said, we have a security process to confirm your identity or something. Because just to make sure, I guess, that I was me, I guess. And the way it works is you need to call us on the telephone, and then we will confirm your identity. And I immediately got a little bit nervous. And so then I called. 2.5 hours later, I confirmed that, yes, those are the glasses I wanted to buy. It was extremely upsetting. I mean, I almost didn't go back. Now, interestingly, I did go back because they had a big sale on, and I ordered glasses again. I thought, and I didn't get the security, although this purchase was much larger, I didn't get the security again because I guess they've confirmed me once. So the idea that I am in one channel, the web, then you're forcing me into email, not great. And then you're forcing me into traditional single channel, right? Beyond extremely, irritating holds. You can introduce holds. It was a horrible experience, and that people are going to be difficult to keep with that kind of thing in place. Another experience with a bank, I was on hold for 3 hours, only not to be able to get done what I wanted to get done. And again, on the phone, the theme is emerging here. And the wackiest one was for something. It was a gift I was getting, which ultimately did not arrive in time because I had ordered it, and I got an email confirming I'd done the order. So far, so good, right? And that was it. I didn't hear anything else. Well, sometime during the day, they called and left a message on my voicemail. I don't spend a lot of time looking for voicemails because anyone who knows me knows not to leave voicemails. And I'm in meetings all day, so it's very difficult to pick up phone calls. So they left a voicemail saying, hey, give us a call because we need to confirm your identity for some security thing as well. Missed it. Finally, I called them and said, what's going on with this order? And they, we left you a voicemail. I was like, what are you talking about? And of course, it was late, and it all worked out fine in the end, but it was a very frustrating experience that I, again, very cautiously will approach that retailer in the future. And I think the point I'm making over and over again here is that we have all these traditional channels, voice-based, telephone-based channels, in a time where people don't really use that anymore. It's very odd. Email's not even feeling that modern anymore. I mean, I'm on WhatsApp, I'm on Facebook, I'm on Messenger, like that's where I want to be. And so the smart retailers that we work with some incredibly smart retailers at Sprinklr. What they're doing is they're saying, hey, I'm going to talk to consumers where they are. I'm going to talk to them on the channels that they want to be on. And the good news is those channels can be aggregated using Sprinklr, and I can manage it through a single interface using Sprinklr, and I can use AI to understand what they need, using Sprinklr, and then more importantly, I can hear when they have issues or complaints just out there because I'm using Sprinklr to listen across all these modern channels, and then in real time see what their experience is like, so I can get real-time customer experience scores. And so all that just makes a ton of sense. And you know what? At the end of the day, the consumer prefers it. It's a very rare occurrence when you can deploy a technology, particularly in the care area, where it drives higher customer satisfaction, higher agent satisfaction, and lower costs and better revenue outcomes and lower risk for the organization. It's extraordinary opportunity. And so we're obviously very busy with our care product over the last couple months and expect to be doing a lot more.
Yeah, yeah, I hope so. That will be good for the customers out there for sure who need that service. Let's talk about those agents though. We work with so many companies that have thousands of people on the line providing support, traditionally over the telephone, sometimes over email, but now increasingly on digital modern channels, and if not multiple channels. And that's the life of a customer care agent is a challenging one. That's a hard job. And my understanding from the folks who work in that sector is that there are especially good jobs and especially challenging ones, depending on the organization that you're a part of. And where there are some organizations in particular that are really good at really caring about their frontline customer care team members. They're empathetic. They have built meaningful relationships across the team, and folks who are in the customer care function will advise their peers sometimes to go and see how people have their desks set up. Have they got pictures of their family? Have they got a good setup there in their workspace that makes it clear that they intend to stay for a while? When they're interviewed, are they asked meaningful questions that suggest that their would-be employer really genuinely cares about them as a person, or not? Because it's not always that way. So I wonder, from your vantage point, what can you say? What can we say? What do we think about that experience of the customer care agent who is dealing with increased workload, with frustrated customers, and may be in either a more supportive or a less supportive work environment?
It's a big question there, Marshall. Let me try to break it down a little bit differently. So the agent obviously is the pointy end of the spear when it comes to delivering customer care. So they've got to feel the passion. Otherwise, there's no way that's going to happen with the customer. And I would say that forcing agents into like these phone queues is a terrible thing to do, because they know that when they pick up the phone, the other person on the line's been waiting sometimes a couple hours. And I thought I was reasonably pleasant in all those cases, but there's no questions. There was some edge in my voice because I was just going bananas. And so that's not a fun way to start a conversation. It's really hard to get delight occurring when you're already starting from a lower base. So I think they just really want to talk to customers the way customers want to talk to them, because they just know they're going to have a more pleasant exchange because you're talking to me in a way that's relevant to me. So that's the first thing. Second thing is, I think agents, I don't think they're super afraid, but they're a little afraid of sort of and replaced by a robot, that kind of stuff. I don't think that's going to happen, but there are a lot of tools that AI can bring to bear that will help agents do a better job, and they do like that. So one thing, for example, when somebody is talking to me in my console, Sprinklr in real time is suggesting answers, and the answers are based on the answers of the best agents. So I'm essentially accessing the collective intelligence of all the other agents around me in order to answer this question, which is very helpful. And it's mediated, right? So it's media intelligence. It's not remote humans being replaced. What I find is that the bots have become somewhat controversial because people are like, oh, you're replacing people's jobs. But again, I find it to be true, because most of the time, most customer care centers are not built to handle the true volume of customer care complaints. So they're always under-serving. And so if you can actually deflect into IVR or deflect, into a bot, what'll happen is that you'll be able to take care of some questions, and the agents are working on the difficult questions. That's actually a more interesting job. People like that a lot better. One of my favorite examples is with the Xbox team. I got this very fascinating story. So people will call up and there are things like, my disk won't load, or this isn't happening, or this isn't working, or I can't get the controller to connect, or that kind of stuff. Right? And so all these trained to first ask the question, have you plugged in or turned on the Xbox? And 30% of the time, people be like, oh, thanks. And this is such a wasted moment, because for the customer, they wasted a bunch of time getting a whole turn the machine on. It's like, I could have been playing games the whole time. For the agent, it's like, oh my God, why doesn't anyone turn the machine on? It gets frustrating. That's no fun either. And overall, it's just kind of a waste of time. So if a bot's there and someone, what's your problem? Disk won't load. And the bot can say, turn the machine on. So, good point. Working fine. Thank you very much. And then it's done, and everyone's a lot happier. And so the things that go to agents are things that are really changing. For me, I actually believe the world that we're heading to, where being customer agents is actually a good job. To work from home. One of the great things about digital channels is you can empower people to work from home, because they don't need to be physically connected to the cell phone system or any kind of on-prem tools they have. There's a sort of deeper level of engagement with customers, because you're writing back and forth on different channels that they like to be on. And at the end of the day, the agent can ask to really focus on experience. They can really focus on, how else can I help you, or what other things can I suggest to you? They can upsell them from a revenue standpoint. It just becomes kind of a more different. And that is the exciting thing. I think customer care will very rapidly become more part of the business, and thought of more as a marketing motion as opposed to being thought of as like a cost motion. So that's where we're heading, I think.
Mm-hmm. It makes me think about what Forrester calls the paradox of automation, where they say the rise of automation, people fear, will lead to a loss of jobs, but in many cases, by automating the most routine work, it leads to a circumstance where our jobs have changed, and now we're dealing with new problems, zero-day problems, unusual problems, deeply emotional human problems, and having an opportunity to solve those kinds of problems makes for more interesting work.
Yep. I'm very much a believer in humanity, and I think that this constant, people have been worried about machines since the loom came out, right? And I think that this constant worry about machines is ridiculous, because treating human beings as machines, if anything that a machine can do, a human being really shouldn't do. Human beings should do things that only human beings should do. And we all know that just basic economics, that when you make it more efficient, you make it more effective, and you create more opportunity and more chance for innovation. I would much rather live now than any other time in history, because we're at a more efficient level than we are at any other time in history. 100 years from now, it'll probably be a pretty cool time to live as well. But and hopefully we'll be out of our homes by then. But I don't live 100 years from now right now. But to me, this constant progress is always very exciting, and we're going to see a tremendous amount of progress to care over the next few years.
Mm-hmm. So as that work experience is changing, and consumers get to benefit from it, it's going to require a lot of work to operationalize, and the care manager is another really important player in this equation. We work with a lot of folks who are managing care teams. We know that they are looking for visibility into who's available on their team, who has particular skills. They want to be able to communicate effectively with their teams. They want to be able to escalate when problems can't be solved by the front line of response. And then they want to be able to get good reporting out from that work over time. Do you feel like that role and the opportunities for it are changing right now as well?
Yeah. I believe that the role of the care manager is going to elevate the same way that the role of a care agent is going to be elevated. And I believe they're going to become more like coaches and less like process servers, right? So right now, what has to happen is people are being treated like machines in a lot of these care organizations because they're dealing with a lot of repetitive issues. And so they're given very specific scripts. We've all had that experience where, something doesn't go well and you're like, complaining or trying to make good on it. And the agent is just parroting back like a script to you. And it's super frustrating because you can't, talking to a human being anymore. You're talking to a human, kind of like, I don't know if you've ever seen the Disney movie Black Hole, one of my favorite movies. And it's held up pretty well. And in the black hole, like all these humans that were on the ship have been turned into robots. Spoiler alert, by the way, if you haven't seen the movie. It's kind of a big surprise at the end. But it's 1980, so I think you're probably good by now. And so that's we've done that to a lot of our care agents, right? And so what happens is it happens to the managers too, because the managers are like just pushing down scripts and pushing down like do it this way. In a world where true machines actually deal with all that kind of like itty bitty stuff. And the human beings are dealing with more complex relationship-based and conversational-based problems. The manager can't just say, well, there won't be a standard conversation anymore. So the manager now is going to have to be much more thoughtful about what's coming in. We'll have to listen carefully to how people are talking, and then we'll have to coach up the team in terms of how to have conversations that are natural and help drive a great experience. That's a much more compelling a job, I think, that people will like a lot more.
Mm-hmm. I agree. One of the other opportunities that I have heard from our teammates who work with care managers in particular is that at the most innovative companies, there are lots of opportunities for care managers to build a practice of taking insights from the front line of care problem solving and abstract some of the trends that they're seeing and get those insights and information out of their silo, out into product development, marketing, all kinds of different teams all around the organization. And there's something meaningful and inspiring about doing that kind of work.
Yeah, a lot of care organizations are really more like customer experience centers. And if you do it well, what can happen is that CXC can be the central way that the organization understands what's happening with its customers. And then, managers can be a core part of communicating to the organization what changes may be necessary in product, how they want to change the way they're delivering the product, how they want to change the way they're pricing the product. All those things can come through that in a really compelling way. And they're coming through in real conversations, right? So, accessing the unstructured, unsolicited conversations of people that are sort of posted publicly, bringing those in, managing it with AI, responding to it, and then continuing to measure real-time CX, that kind of end-to-end system. We're seeing it now with Sprinklr customers because pretty much the only place you can do that. And they're getting extraordinary results, like extraordinary returns, saving a ton of money, but also making a lot of money and turning care into a very strategic part of the organization.
Grad, you have worked in such a wide variety of different contexts and industries, and now are here working with this large quantity of data with large organizations around the world. Do you have any favorite tips or tricks or best practices or advice for folks who are looking to get really good at extracting those insights from data and sharing them effectively with their teammates throughout the organization?
I don't know about tips and tricks, but I'll talk about one thing I see a lot in the industry, which I think is a red herring. So I'm going to lean out a little bit and say that probably every single IT team that's working in the care space today has a project on the docks called Unified Desktop, because they're using a variety of different point solution tools. The agents are frustrated because they have to have a variety of windows open and data lives in 2 or 3 different spots. And this is true in a lot of hospitals. And so I'm kind of going off care here for a second, Marshall, just to provide an analogy. And in hospitals, these unified desktops were used to try to provide patient care across a variety of point solutions. And what hospitals found is that you just couldn't make that work. It never works. It's too hard, breaks too quickly, and it's not in a human way. That kind of interface doesn't work because you're unifying on a glass essentially, which means someone has to unify it in their brain, and it's not the way people's brains tend to work. So hospital industry about 10 years ago started turning to an application called Epic Healthcare, based in Wisconsin. Great company, Madison, Wisconsin. One of America's great companies, I'd say. And an incredible founder. And what Epic has done is they have brought out a unified platform. There's one interface where everything's in one place, and you're not having to kind of force unify. It is unified. And I would say that in care, it's the same issue. In care, everyone's got a unified desktop because they're using a bunch of different point solutions. Our customers at Sprinklr, they've kind of given up that battle. And they said, I just need a unified experience. And that's what they get with Sprinklr. They've gone to a single interface. Agents love it. Customers love it because they get faster responses. It's cheaper. It's easier to run. You only have to provision a user on one tool. Like, that's a big deal, right? You've got 3,000 care agents and they tend to rotate in and out pretty quickly. You're constantly provisioning and deprovisioning them on, say, a dozen platforms. That's like a whole job for a bunch of people in IT, and they don't like that. That's a horrible job, right? Get rid of that completely. There's a lot of really compelling issues when you go to a unified backend and a unified platform and give up this idea of a unified desktop that pulls things together. So that, to me, would be the biggest change. And I think there's a bit of a mindset that people are so locked into this. There's a bit of a mindset of I have to do it this way. I have to have 10-point solutions. That it takes a bit for people to realize that it doesn't actually have to be that way. And when that realization occurs, then it gets exciting because people start to think about what they can do differently.
Mm-hmm. Well, let's talk about the organizational level. All of this agent activity and manager activity all rolls up to the highest levels of the organization, where there are concerns like really nailing the routing and queuing, helping optimize the workforce in general, and especially managing customer data. I wonder, what's your current thinking about the role of customer data in care, some of the pitfalls and some of the opportunities perhaps?
Yeah, so Sprinklr is a CXM platform, customer experience management platform. The essence of CXM is that it is all the public data about somebody, plus the transactional data you have internally to give you a complete picture of the person. And so, but it is public, right? This is like legally available public information that I've posted about myself. And I think what I'm seeing is that customers have come to expect that you know something about them and that you talk to them as a whole person and you talk to them with some knowledge and insight. If I've said something about you on your website, or if I've made a comment on your Facebook page, or if I've tweeted something about you, or if I've got a TikTok video about your product, whatever that is, I expect you to have heard it. I expect you to know that I said it. I expect you to refer that back to me when we're having a conversation. Just like a friend would expect that of you, just like a family member would expect that of you. It's the same thing. So companies who build on Sprinklr build a CXM database as a result of using Sprinklr. At Microsoft, I ended up with 500 million people in my CXM database. And that's a very powerful tool to create great customer experiences. And that's, at the end of the day, people are gravitating to great experiences. And if you're not committed to providing great experiences, I'm always kind of jokingly say, you don't have to be. Like, don't worry about it, because you know what, someone else will. And then you can find another job, or you can do it where you are and make that company successful. And that's, I think, the kind of transformative issue that people have to deal with.
That is transformative. That is so different from the old way of going through one phone conversation after another and having to repeat your information. And now the expectation that I could be in contact with a care agent and they would know what I had said about the company previously is amazing. What a new world.
Wouldn't you prefer to have that conversation, right? Like, it's just so much faster, so much easier. You know, recognition of what they've done with you before. Oh, well, I can see how you'd be pissed off. That's just basic. How do you deal with human beings? Well, I mean, it's always a little bit funny to me. Like, a lot of this stuff's very common sense oriented. I think everybody knows how they want to be treated. So the puzzling thing to me sometimes is, if you know how you want to be treated, if you're on WhatsApp all day long or text or whatever, why don't you treat your customers that way? Why do you walk in the door or the office of your company or the Zoom of your company or whatever you're using and suddenly start behaving in a manner that you yourself wouldn't like? I think that's it's a challenging question that people have to ask themselves. How can you really be okay with a system wherein, after placing an order on the web, the customer is asked to phone an agent and wait for 2.5 hours to answer 3 questions to confirm that they are who they are? There's no other way to do that, because you know what? I think Amazon's figured that out. Like, it's frustrating to me sometimes, because the opportunity is so real right now, and to see people do things that are not only not great, but like don't even make sense, would not even make sense to them. That's sort of just feels like someone's being lazy.
Well, in my mind, it's also related to how expanded our horizons are around what's possible. And this time in history, you know, it hasn't always been possible to be as respectfully human as you're discussing now at scale. And today that is easier than it's ever been, thanks in large part to technologies that are spreading out more and more every day. And I'm sure thankful to get to be a part of that story here at Sprinklr. It's a really great opportunity.
Yeah, it's a pretty awesome time.
It is. Well, Grad, thank you so much for taking the time here to.
Yeah, no problem. I enjoyed it. Well, you know, just polishing up my X-Wing here, so not much else to do.
It's looking good. It's looking real good.